But the problem that I'm referring to is the one I was thinking about, the mystery of mathematics, which I've talked to you about before, and the mystery of why it is that man can come up with math, and that all of the principles in math can be seen in any number of expressions in the universe, things that are out in the universe, when they're measured and up and worked on and vectored and everything else. All of the principles in math are describing that thing. How is that possible? How is it possible on this little grain of sand, Earth, that little tiny men who have little tiny minds come up with math, and that math happens to match and even predict very accurately, particularly higher level math, calculus, trigonometry, and so on? How is it that that actually can forecast things that that little mind, that little planet could never have even thought to exist? And yet when it's discovered to exist, suddenly their mathematics is sitting there describing that thing and forecasting that thing. And this has not been a question only to myself. This has been a question for philosophers. This has been a question for mathematicians, and so on. And I don't make any claims of being any smarter or any more insightful than anyone else, because everybody has their own moments of insight about any number of subjects, and some could be life-changing for people, and people do have insights. And this wasn't the biggest thing, but it dawned on me, and here's the insight. It's kind of hard to explain because it's new to me, but I'm going to give it to you as best as I can. It has to do with the answer to this question. If the universe was all one, if there was only oneness in the universe, there would be no math. It's the fact that there's two, the fact that there's another thing other than one, that creates all the mathematics that we'll ever come up with. This is the insight. So the fact that there's a two after a one, all of the world's mathematics that have ever been discovered and will ever be discovered is because there's one more, there's a two. Just because there's a two, no other number, just don't even add the next numbers. Just because there's a two, all of math is based on that. The fact that it isn't just one and that it's two. Like as an example, if I'm wake up into a world and I see you, I say to myself, I'm one thing and you're another thing. That's two. It's not a world of oneness, there's other things. And in math, as soon as, or in numbers, as soon as you have more than one, you have all of the mathematics that are ever going to be discovered. Because between 1 and 2 is all the math. Vectors and all kinds of other high-level things are all involved in the fact that there simply is the number 2. So this helps me to understand. It may not make a lot of sense to you, and maybe it does, but it helps me to understand that all man has done is take the fact of 2, that there's more than 1, and extrapolate that into every bit of mathematics that we have now. He didn't make it up. It's all there in the fact that all there is in math is between 1 and 2. You can discover all the math, and then the rest of the numbers are all variants of that. So that was kind of the insight to me, that man doesn't indeed make up math. He simply is discovering all the various ways to connect math up through trigonometry, through calculus, through basic math, division, whatever it is. But he can do that just starting from the fact that there's more than 1. There's a 2. And once you have that second digit, you have all the math. All you have to be is smart enough to work it all out. And that's what mathematicians have done. And so the reason, this is the final thing, and I'll shut up about it. The reason that you can be on this tiny planet with tiny minds and little people running around and know things about the universe that you don't even know exist yet, but know them through math, is precisely because you're utilizing something that the universe gave you itself, which is 2. It isn't just 1. There's a 2. And once you have that second digit, you have all the math, all of the high level, medium level, and low level exists between 1 and 2. It just has to be worked out. And that's why we can know so much about the universe, because it's the universe itself that gave us the number 2. It's the universe itself that's made us intuitively know, I'm over here, you're over there. That's 1 and 2. So it gave that to us, and man has simply worked out all of the permutations of the 1 and the 2 into all of the great math that we have today. So it isn't such a mystery with that insight how it is that math really does describe the universe, because math itself was given to us by merely having the number 2. So that was the big insight. It may or may not be something that rocks your world, but it made a lot of sense to me. And I never claimed that anything that I have is of course, the 100% answer or anything like that. But it certainly helped me to recognize that that simple idea explains why man can develop all of this math that later shows up in, no matter what it is, a later unknown thing, something that we won't discover for 1,000 years in the manifest universe, and yet math will be describing it perfectly. It's because of the number 2 and the idea and the premise of more than 1. Once you have that number 2, you have all the math that is ever going to be discovered between those 2 numbers. All the rest of the numbers are just permutations off of all that. Once you have 2, you've got it all.